I'm his Big Bear Ron. I'd like to do a reading from a book called Honor Bound, written by Joseph Steffan. I think that's the proper way to pronounce his name. I don't know that you can find this book in print anymore. I found it at a discount bookstore. At any rate, let me read from a couple of pages, and then I will, comment at the end. I read from pages 178 and 179. I had never been in a gay bar before in my life. It too was surprisingly, quote, normal, unquote. And although not as nice as the other bars in town, it was essentially a Quonset hut. Everyone seemed to know everyone else, and they actually talked to each other. It was as much a meeting place or community hall as it was a bar. The concept of the gay community is one that took some time for me to appreciate. In many ways, it was a group of people I was very wary of. After all, I was still dealing with my own prejudices and homophobia. I felt like a pretty regular guy, but who was to know if most of the gays were just like the stereotypes I had known? After all, I didn't know that many gay people so far. At that time, I especially disliked people who I felt perpetuated the gay stereotypes. The effeminates, the queens, the guys in leather, those who visibly flaunted their sexuality. To me, they were a problem and a threat. They were why the rest of society wouldn't accept us, because this was society's image of who we were. I felt that if everyone would just try to act and dress more mainstream, life would be a whole lot easier for all of us. By getting to know other gay people in Fargo, visiting the bar and going to parties where everyone was gay, I began to get a sense of the gay community. I began to understand that, like any community, we were bound together by shared experiences. It seemed that no matter where we were from or how diverse our backgrounds, we all had something important and intensely personal in common. It wasn't simply the fact that we were gay. It was that we had all, in our own unique ways, come to terms with our sexuality in an often unaccepting society. In our own isolated corners of life, we had struggled with thoughts and feelings we couldn't understand, emotions that didn't seem right. We had shared a difficult experience, often isolated and alone, not knowing if anyone else like us existed in the world. Now we were finding each other, people who had shared these experiences, and it was as though we were all old friends reunited. The stories and experiences of our coming out, whether discussed or not, created a common ground of understanding and friendship. Something I discovered quickly among my gay friends was their ability to accept people without judging them against a preconceived set of standards. They had all known, in one sense or another, what it felt like to be judged by other people, to have someone else impose standards on their lives. I had also known this feeling, but it still took time for me to overcome the elitist attitudes that had been ingrained in me at Annapolis. I began slowly to appreciate the value of people, even if they didn't conform to my own standards of normalcy, to shed some of my own prejudices. Uniformity had been such an integral part of my military experience that I had lost much of my ability to appreciate and value diversity. One of the important lessons of my coming out was the appreciation of my own vulnerability. For the first time in my life, I had learned what it feels like to feel vulnerable in this society, to recognize how skewed it is towards certain classes of people. Our social standards and mores are the products of historical developments designed by and for white heterosexual Christian men. Honor Bound, Joseph Steffan. I read this book, it's been at least 12, 13, 14 years. I usually write the date in the book when I purchased it, but I failed to do that in this particular book. At any rate, let's see, the copyright date let's see, where is the copyright? Here it is, 1992. And I'm not going to summarize the book for you. And you'll have to read it for yourself. Once again, I don't know that it's even in print anymore. This book has been quoted by other writers. And if you want to read a story, a true story about injustice, then read this book, Honor Bound. And I tell you, it's a story that can be told by many, many, many others. But this book, in my opinion, has been one of the best well-written books in its category. Honor Bound, Joseph Steffan. If you can, get a hold of the book. Even if you don't agree with it, get a hold of it and let it challenge you. And then you challenge it with thinking of your own. Take care.